Hello everyone, welcome to this video tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to start looking into the indicator filters. The indicator filters is another type of filters. Unlike the trained filters we already discussed before in another playlist, indicator filters enables user to create a filter based on individual indicators. Okay, so this tutorial we're focusing on the close, open, high, low price. Somebody might just be very surprised that uh, closing open high low their prices. And what are you talking about? Is that are they indicators? I never heard about it before. Yes, but in our application we treat as these four prices as indicators as well. Same with volume. We will talk about in another video tutorial. So because the price itself revealing lots of information. So in our application, remember the close, open, high, low prices are type of indicator. We can call it as price indicators. If you don't believe me, let's go into our application and I will show you lots of examples. Cool. So let's go into our application straight away. Okay. As you can see, I already imported the uh, Australia share market data, which is ASX 200, top 200 stocks. So up to today, 22nd of December. This is the time of this I'm taking this video. Um, so if you want to create the indicator filter, the first thing you want to do is bring to the indicator filter management from the analysis menu, click the first item, and we start our indicator filters. As you can see, there are two windows opens. This one is indicator filter tree. Another one down here is all the indicators that's supported in our indicator filters. Alright, at the moment, as you can see, there's nothing displayed because we haven't created anything yet. This is a brand new installed in application. If you want to create 8 indicator filters, you right click on that uh, the root node indicator filters and bring up this pop-up menu and you select the second one, add filter. Once you click that, as you can see, there's a default template that's been created for us for this indicator filter management. In our previous tutorial, we have went through a lot of items here, but some of the buttons I don't think we have already explored. So basically, you need to give it a name for this indicator filter. For example, let's say filter demo 1. So the description can be anything or leave it at blank. So when you and sentiments, you pick up the bearish or bullish. Let's just keep it at default neutral. So there's a different way that you create a trend filter, because trend filters automatically allows you to start to change those configurations. But in the indicator filter management, as you can see here, we need to create conditions. So one filter can create multiple conditions. If you want to add, at the moment, everything down here is disabled until you click this add condition button. Once you click on that, as you can see, those configurations are enabled for us to create indicator filter conditions. Okay. I'm assuming you guys already had watched our first tutorial, so I'm not going to go through every details down here for each components. I'm just start to talking about the indicator itself. So first of all, enable to using these indicators, you need to double click and select them from these indicators. So all the indicators are available here. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about close, open, high, low. So I just double click them. Once I double click them and then selected them, as you can see, the green ticker appears, which means we have already included those indicators in our indicator filter management. Okay. Now, if you click this drop-down list, as you can see, all these indicators bar has been selected. The constant values are going to be always be there. because it just integer or a constant value. So that is just helper item for us. But those extra ones is, it will be appear after we select them. All right, because the closing price, opening price, high price, and low price are prices. So the most important thing indicator, the most important price that referring in the technical analysis word is the closing price, because closing price reviews an entire day's information. So the price are all of those information are embedded in our closing price. So in 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 the following content, I'm gonna just using this closing price. You can apply the same functions for all the other prices, but in this discussion, we just pick up the closing price. The options, everything are the same with open. As you can see, they're exactly the same, and high price. So those functions are the same, and also the low price, they are the same. So for now, let's focus on the closing price. Okay. So the configuration items. Once you select this price indicator, for example, closing, as you can see, you only have two configuration items available. First one is the chart type. So you need to select is a daily chart, a weekly chart, a monthly chart, or yearly chart. Right? For example, we're focusing on our weekly chart, and options is all the functions you can use. Right? So those functions that you can use for this closing price indicator. Same with others. Okay, so that's just very limited configuration items available here. So let's just explore one by one. So what I'm going to do is by creating some of the conditions here, and then we're going to create a market scan based on this function and see what we can get. Okay, so before I go into each functions, I need to show you guys where you can check the documentations, just in case you forget something and you're not gonna come back to browsing or watch this video tutorial again. Here is the documentation page. It's in our main page. If you go in there, in our products manual, so you select the technical analysis 2. So here there is an indicator filter function documentation. If you click on this, it will bring you to this page. There is a table of contents here. It covers every functions for every indicators. For example, we are talking about the closing price high-low. Those functions are consistent for all this type of indicators. So if you have any questions about any one of them, you just click on here, average of last. So it will be brief descriptions here to remind you what that function is doing. But everything is very intuitive, so I'm quite confident once you finish watching this video tutorial, you can pretty much remember what's the function's meaning by only read the name. Okay, let's go back to our application. The first function is the value. The value means this closing price, the price itself. So you just get the value of the closing price, and that's it, right? So what you can do about this value, for example, you can filter, you can use this operator and with another constant, and you can filter. For example, you only want to see all the stocks that closing price is above $5 or $10. You want to ignore all those penny stocks, right? So and then if you say large or equals to, remember the constant type has to be float because you're referring the price. It could be have a digit, decimal values. That's why you have to use in floats. If you don't understand what the float means, you can do some Google. Basically, you want to ignore anything below $10. So if you click save right now, so as you can see, the weekly closing price large or equals to constant value float $10. So that 10 means $10. Okay, so that's the meaning of this filter. There is a little helper functions or hidden functions here. Actually, you can copy this condition to the clipboard. You right click on that and then you select copy condition description to clipboard, and you can just Control V to paste here. Actually, you can see you are changing the name of this filter to what the condition is, but it's just a little trick here. If you have multiple conditions, then you need to put something meaningful. But if you have just one condition, you can just copy them here, because that name it can be visible for in other places. For example, now we are going to create a market scan based on this function indicator filter. So you go analysis, and you bring up the market scan management, and right click on that empty node and say add a market scan. Same thing. So this default market scan management page is created for you. You need to give it a name. For example, you want to use the exact same name with that function, so a filter. All you need to do is select the market, which market you want to scan. Okay, so you want to scan this ASX 200 market, so you need to double click on here and then bring this market name to the right hand side tree right here, which is our selected market data, right? So once you do that, and another thing is you want to select what indicator filters. Okay, so any filters you want to use. For now, we just created one. So double click on that. As you can see, the weekly closing price larger or equals to $10 names right here. So once you finish those, I leave it this front or two, because you want to scan up to the latest data. Obviously, you can point to any data that before the 22nd, which is today. It's up to you. But for this demo, we just bring up to the Wednesday, 22nd of December 2021. Alright, once you finish up all of those, you go to the market scan control panel, which is our last one in this menu group. So click on that. As you can see, it opens up the market scan control panel, because right here we can start our scan. Okay, I'm just go through very detailed the first time, but for other functions I'm just gonna be very quick. The main purpose of this demo is to show you what the meaning of the functions, how to do the scan. I think you guys are already familiar with. Alright, let's click on that star button. There, summarize this market scan will based on this filter. As you can see, is weekly closing price larger or equals to $10. That's exactly what we want. We're scanning from this date to today, and that market scan name is exactly the same with this filter name. Okay, let's click OK and get it started. It's very quick. 86 return. You're going back to your market scan management page. You right click and refresh result tree. So as you can see, if you double click that green item, so 86 stocks with the closing price larger or equals to $10 will be returned. Okay, so here you go. This is 86 shares. It is 85 because we start counting from 0, so that's 85. That's why. Alright, let's open up the first one. Double click on that. So as you can see today, weekly closing price actually is you can start off this crosshair tree. Sorry, this little two closing that cross. Point out today, as you can see, the low right here is 43.68. That's correct. That's larger than 10. Let's just randomly pick up another one just to prove what this filter is going to do. There is, how about this one? Because this one you don't like, you don't really know what is the price is. JB Hi-Fi. Point to here. Please take a look at this closing price right here, and point out today that was $48.26. So that's obviously over $10. Okay, so that's the first function that you can use, is the value. Okay, if you're going back to our indicator filters, So let's just create another one. So this time we add conditions. What we're going to do is we select the closing price as um, still the same thing, weekly chart, but this time we're going to use the second function. This is previous value, right? The previous value is similar with the value. The value is returned this week's. If you select a week, the value is this week's closing price. The previous value means previous last week's closing price. So yeah, it's very obvious, right? So some people might asking, why do you have this functions here? Because you might need it sometimes. Who knows? I mean, you might need it for comparing with the for example, you can select here in closing price, weekly value, so you can compare this 2 weeks closing price. It's very convenient, right? You can even close in the high price with previous one, so you can comparing different prices. You can comparing closing with open or high low. It's just so many combinations here. So for now, I'm going to show you what I normally do is this week AB, ABS diff, so maybe just diff. So I want to find out uh, all the shares with 2%, at least 2% growth, what we call price rise. So what I mean is I'm using this week's closing price and subtract with the previous week's closing price. I want this value is up um, is up 2%. Okay, so I can't do that. So basically, I want to just say, yeah, how about this? This week's closing price is bigger than last week's. So basically, it's a gain. This week's closing price is a higher price than last week's closing price, which means I will want to find out the stocks would have a price gain for this week, right? If I do this, as you can see, give me all the weekly closing price. Current weekly closing price is larger than previous week's closing price. It's very simple conditions here, right? So let's just copy that one as the title. Description as well. Okay, let's just do it. For example, you go in another market scan, you add another market scan, you use the same name of our condition, and you select SX200 as well. Now this time you're using another one, which is the current closing price is larger than last week's closing price. You double click that one, and let's say let's start this scan, see what we've got. Okay, we've got quite a bit of stocks, 200 star, sorry, we have 110 in our result set. Let's refresh our scan result history, double click on that result. Let's take a look here. So any one of them. The first one is A2 Milk. So this week's closing, which is today's price, has to be larger than last week's closing price. So last week's closing is $4.47. Take a look at the closing price right here. And this week's is $5.57. So obviously fulfills our requirement. It fulfills the condition. Second one. So yes, that's tiny bit up. If you check the line, it's much easier for us to just use a line chart, because the line chart is connecting all the closing price. If the closing price is sloping up since last 12, and then that's a good result. Okay, let's just do the same. We'll just bring up any one. This one looks quite weird because it's pointing down, but we want to expect it. The line chart is point up. Actually, it's point up here, right? So that's correct. Okay, Last one, I show you guys last one, DMP in closing price. It's pointing out, it's pointing up, right? So it's sloping up, which is correct because this week's closing is right here. And last week's is 116.14 and this week's is 118.73, so that's correct result. All right, so this is the second function. It's gonna be quick because we have a lot of functions to go through. All right, let's just create one more. All right, this time we're using closing and price as the indicator, still using a weekly chart. Third one is the get change in price. What are we gonna get here? This function, a change in price means using this week's closing price minus previous week's closing price, and that difference is the change in price. So this value could be a positive value if this week's closing price is higher than last week's closing price, and this difference could be negative if this week's closing price is lower than previous week's closing price. Okay, and these functions give us some of the option that we can define, something like we want to get a change in price. We want to get all the stocks, right, with all the with the difference between this week's closing price and last week's closing price. I want this difference is larger than positive $10. See if we can get any. So floating, let's say, get a change in price bigger than float value 10. All right, let's save it. I don't think we can get that, man. I'm not sure. So let's just do the scan for now. Use this name. Okay, create this. And now let's go create our market scan. Okay, we select ASX 200. We leave everything default, but we want to change, get a change in price. We want to use this condition. So that will be a massive weak gain in price if we get any from that scan result. So let's just see what we can get from here. I forgot to update the name. Okay, so that's the name for it. Okay, now that looks like the first one is the one we want to go for this market scan. Let's try it. Click that start button. Change in price larger than positive 10. All right, we only have 2 stocks to fulfill this criteria. Let's go back to your market scan control panel. And yeah, that's the one. So let's refresh the result. We have 2. The first one is CSL. Let's see if we get $10 growth. So this week's closing is 290. Previous one is 270. So that's obviously is more than $10. It's actually $19. So it's fulfilled the requirement. So that's what we can use for this get change in price function. There is another one. Actually, this is the index for AXJO. It's an index, but it's not a share. It's the ASX 200 index. So we can ignore that one because it has a this character in the front. So that means it's an index. Okay. Cool. This is the third function. Let's going back our indicator filter management. Let's create one more. And this time we select closing price. Sorry, we need to add a condition. Sorry. Closing price weekly. Let's see. Another one is get a change in percentage. So this one is different than the previous one. The previous one is give you this week's closing price subtract last week's previous week's closing price. So the get change in percentage, it will calculate that percentage, right? So if you say the price up for this week's the closing price is up 2% than previous week, you can set up this condition. For example, you use this function, they give you a percentage value. So I want to find all the shares with a 5% price gain, positive 5% price gain. What I'm gonna do is we select this function and large 5%, though that will be our float as well, because it's giving me a 5%. It's a percentage value, so it's going to be, let's say, 5%. So that means 5% because you're using this function and you compare with 5 instead of 0.05, because we already multiply 100 for the percentage already, so you're going to use in 5, okay, instead of 0.05. All right, if I save this one, because it's pretty hard to calculate, let's change it to 10%. See if we can get any 10% price gain for the scan. All right, so let's set up that. Copy that condition to the clipboard and paste here. Now let's go back to the market scan, create another one, give it a name with this function, the same name with our indicator. Oh, sorry, it's gonna be this one. Okay. Let's close that one. Just create a new one. Okay, select the market, select the condition. So this time we select get change in percentage larger than 5%. Oops. Right, because that's 10, we're using 10%, so that's going to be 10 here. We rename that, which we refresh that one. As you can see, it becomes 10. Okay, let's do the market scan right now and see what we get. What we can get from the market scan this time. We use the second one. That's the function we are using for this scan, and we select that. It's still in 5. Don't know why. Oh, we haven't saved it. Sorry. We save it and come back here again. Yeah, where we're gonna exploring all the weekly closing price have 10% positive gain. How many we got? We still got one. I'm not sure we get is the good one. Oh, nice. So this one have more than 10% price gain for the LNK. Not sure. This looks pretty good gain right here. If you have your calculator, so that's 5. This week's closing price is so it's 5.51 cents. Last week is 4.9. Yeah, well, that's more than 10% because yeah, I just calculated with the calculator. It's more than 12% price gain for this up bar here. Okay, cool. We got the correct result. We still have a couple of functions to show you guys. Let's just be quick. Going back to our indicator filters, let's create another one. Add condition using closing price, weekly chart. Let's go through to get an average of the last. So this one, is actually, if you select that one, it just give you, because you chose the weekly chart type here, you're using week as a unit. If you choose day, so as you can see, it becomes day. Let's say week. To get average of last, basically you want to get the average closing price for the last how many weeks. For example, for the past 10 weeks, you get an average value of a closing price. And if you put a 10, that means you get 10 weeks of average closing price. If you get 20, that will be past 20 weeks average closing price. Okay, I'm not going to show you scan it one by one. It's going to be taking too long, so I'm going to explaining what the function's doing. But for some interesting one, I'm going to show some of the scan. 52 weeks high is it just gives you past a year weekly high. So as you can see, this one is just give you past 52 weeks high price, and here is the past 52 weeks of low price. Well, what you can do with this thing is you can either using to compare it with another constant value, or yeah, so you want to say weekly 52, so a 52 week high price has to larger than for example, $50, so you can get all of those shares out. Same with this one, 52 weeks low, so this past year low price. Or you can compare with today's price. So here is just a very simple past year high and low price. And duration high is very interesting because that just give you the duration of past. For example, you want to know, is that this week's closing price is past 10 weeks highest high price, right? For the past, for example, past 20 weeks, all right? So you compare with this one. So basically it will give you these past 20 weeks highest high price. Instead of the past 52 weeks, it just give you a option. You can choose any week's duration high, right? If you put 52, so that value will be exactly the same with that function, with this get a 52 week high. Okay, so if you put some other value, it gives you any random, any arbitrary weeks. So it's up to the user to put that value in it. For example, get 52. Let's just do this comparison. So let's get 52 weeks high. I mean, it has to be equals to weekly get 52 week high. Okay, so because 52 weeks high, it should be equals to past 52 weeks duration high. So if you select that one, so because these two functions should return the same value. All right, let's just do an experiment here because I haven't tried either. I want to just try here with you guys. Create another new market scan. Get that. Select the ASX 200, and now this time I get all the shares with these two functions return the same value. I'm gonna just get those shares out, see how many I get. Going back here. Yeah, that's the one. Let's get started. Cool, I've got 194. So that's pretty much everything in this in this. That's pretty much everything from this ASX 200, because ASX 200 doesn't we don't have 200 shares right now because some of them are removed from that index. So that's pretty much everything. A2 from A, B, C, D. So that means that's the correct result because we get all the stuff including the index are all returned. So because what I said, the duration high, 52 weeks duration high should be equals to get 52 weeks high. So right, as long as you guys understand what the that mean, If you click on that and click modify, so that'll be enabled again. You can choose the you can modify the conditions and change that condition, right? Yeah. So if you save again, it will be saved the latest one. For example, um, I chose not equals to. What I mean is I want to select something duration high not equals to 52 weeks high. See what I've get. We refresh it and let's go scan again. This time we chose not equals to. So as you can see, not equals to returns 194. Sorry. Okay, let's delete this thing. Yeah, I should. Okay, so first of all, I change it to not equals to, and refresh. We choose this function. Even the name is equals to. Okay, let me just change the name as well. Here, not equals to. This one means not equals to. Okay, so 2 equals, that means equals to, but if you do this, it means not equals to. Okay, so just in case some of you guys don't understand what that means, indicators change it here. So okay, pick up this one and let's go into the market scan control panel. Let's run the second one. Okay, so we get anything not equals to duration 52 weeks duration high not equals to get 52 weeks high, and they should be the same. I expect nothing is going to return. It doesn't update that one, but if you're going back to the result and you refresh it, there's nothing here, so that's correct, right? Because we're not expect to return any stocks with this two values not equal to each other. Okay, so that's duration high or low. Let's going back to here, add one more filter. Let's explore another function. Choose the closing price, weekly chart. All right, and we have went through the duration high. Let's say to get all-time high. So this all-time high means not equals not only, so the all-time high is in the entire time period, the highest high price. So all-time high, that means, you know, the all-time high for the entire chart time scale. Yeah, I think you guys already know what the all-time high means. Let's say we want to find out this week's. We want to find all the shares with current closing price of this week equals to its all-time high, which means this week's closing price, this stock reaches its all-time high value. So let's see if we can find any like this all-time high. And if you want to set up this kind of condition, you're going to see the left hand side you're using get all-time high, right hand side indicator you're using the same closing indicator, and it's still the same weekly chart, and you select the value. So this week's value equals to, the operator equals to all-time high. If you save it, and this condition will find this kind of stocks for us. Let's see if we get any. Okay, so we finish off the indicator filter create. Let's go to create a market scan. Right click, add a market scan. Let's just copy that name here. Select this market that we are gonna scan, and we find out the filter. Indicator filter. We just created. Looks like this guy, you know, weekly closing price equals to its get all-time high. So once you select that one, you go into our market scan control panel, looking for that market scan we just created. The first one, let's start it. We get a quick glance at the conditions. Is that correct? Yes, it is correct. Let's start it. Wow, we do find a 9 out of um, results, which is the all-time high this week. Interesting. Let's right click and refresh the results. Double click on our results. If you take a look at the overview chart front here, it all looks fantastic. They all just point to sloping up the price, and then they are all reaches all-time high for the entire time scale. So they're all very obvious except for one of them, except for this one. Let's see if it has the all-time high, because it's much easier to just use the monthly chart. So it's slightly higher than that. That's correct. So as you can see, the closing price is $5.3039, right, for this week. But here is $5.30, so that's less than that. So it reaches its all-time high. That's correct. Others, I don't need to open the chart because you can obviously see from this outline. So okay, and that seems quite useful. I mean the function. Okay, so take a look here. It's all-time high equals to this week's closing price, and you can just modify it and see what about previous week's closing price, which is its all-time high. If you select that, if you go into the market scan, refresh it. Actually, you don't need to refresh it. You're just going to do another scan right here. You got 9 shares that it reaches all-time high last week. So let's say refresh it. Let's just open up this one and give it a so this week, no, it doesn't look right, but let's just have a look at the indicator. We haven't saved it. Maybe, yep, we haven't saved it. Now we save it. Let's do another scan. Let's click on that. Now this time it's closing price all-time high equals to last week's closing price, because the function we're using is previous value. If we click OK, we have 3 shares that reaches all-time high last week. Let's see what's the scan results. Let's right click on that. Okay, let's found 3 shares right here. Let's open the first one. First one, that's correct, because last week's closing price is all-time high closing price. If you see the line chart, that's exactly right. Second one, if you go into the line chart, it's point down. So previous weeks is reaches all-time high. That's correct. Right. Last one, PRLs. Previous week is a fantastic week because it reaches all-time high. This week is slightly sloping down a tiny bit. Okay, so that's the function of all-time high. Let's go and explore the last few functions. If you create a new filter, indicator filter, you select the closing price, weekly chart. Let's see what we left. Okay, we have some of here. So this 4 function is different with the previous one. As you can see, those ones are value or get something. That this one is blah blah blah. So is sloping down since last peak. So you can read the function name by you can guessing, because the name I think is already explained itself. It's sloping down since last peaks, which means this this share the price has to be sloping down from this last peak. The last peak doesn't necessarily to be previous values, could be multiple weeks before. Consistently, if the closing price from multiple weeks high consistently floating down and the price is falling down, and it will be fulfill this condition. Let's just do a scan, and then you guys can visually see what's that function mean. It's sloping down since last pick. If you select this kind of function starts with is, so it has to be, you ignore the right indicator because we no longer use that, because this one is something, is true or not. So you only pick up the operator with is true or is false. If you pick up something else, if you're trying to save, so it will pops out the error message. The error message tells you the left-hand side of the function requires only is true or is false operator, right? Obviously, let's do it again. Is sloping down since last pick, because you only either choose this one or that one, otherwise it's not allowed you to pass. So let's say is true. So we want to see all the shares that the price is sloping down since its last pick. If you click condition save the condition. As you can see, weekly closing price is sloping down since last pick is true. So let's copy the condition description right here. Okay, it's easier for us. All right, we saved that one. Let's go back to market scans. Right click and add market scan. Okay, let's use this name as well. Closing price sloping down since last pick is true. First of all, we select the market scan we want to use. Second one, very important, we want to choose the indicator. As you can see, all the indicator filters we just created are under this indicator filters, because we only create our indicator filters, right? So you can obviously can use the multiple combination with the trend filters all together with, with the indicator filters. Those comprehensive market scan, I will show you guys in later video tutorials. But here, let's just find out that sloping down since last peak is true. So this guy, double click that. Let's go to right hand side of tree, and then let's do a market scan. I think it's that one is not run yet. Click star. We're using this condition, and click OK. We have 73 fulfill this criteria. Refresh the result tree and double click on here. So as you can see, all of those are sloping down since their last peak. Well, let's just examine a few of them. Again, you need to open the line chart. As you can see here, the price is actually sloping down since its last peak. So that's the correct one. Let's open the first one, because first one looks like incorrect because it's from the overview chart it's point up, but from here, if you open the line chart, this week's actually the closing price is sloping down since its last peak, because the peak is this one. Yep, you guys got what I mean? Yeah, so that's the peak, right? Sloping down. That's correct. So all of them have this criteria. Some of them are like very obvious, like this guy. It's sloping down since last peak, but last peak is a few weeks ago. For example, is a month ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. It's sloping down. So that's quite a long time, right? So do you guys think how you can use these functions? Because right here, right now, I'm just going to show you what that means. You guys have to use your imagination and your technical analysis skills and use this function to find out valuable information for yourself. But for now, I'm just purely explaining what that means. Okay, so let's go through two more here. I think we don't have many left. The condition, closing price, weekly. We just explore here, and this one is sloping up since last 12. Let's just explain this one. Again, you have to choose is true or is false, otherwise will not let you go through, because your left hand side requires is true or is false. Okay, so I'm not going to show you again, so just remember this point. Okay, so if you save it, that means give me all the shares that their closing price is sloping up since last 12, right? So it's pointing up, right? price is moving up since last 12, right? Purely use this function, you will get some of the stocks that fulfill this criteria. The price is moving up. All right, let's go into the market scan. Right click, create a market scan, give it the right name, select this stocks market that we're going to scan, which is ASX 200, and find out is sloping up since last 12 is true. Go to the control panel. The first one, weekly closing price is sloping up since last 12 is true. Let's kick this scan off running. Okay, so that's correct. Now you get 112 fulfill this criteria. You're going back to the market scan management pane, right click, refreshes the scan result history, double click on that. As you can see, all the 112 shares are pointing down since last. Oops, did I the wrong functions? Okay, so that's sloping up since last 12, yes. Yeah, some of them are not very obvious until you open the line chart. For the weekly line chart, it's sloping up since last 12. That's correct because it's pointing up. You created a 12 2 weeks ago. I mean, yeah, 1 week ago. If you turn it to a line chart, it's pointing up. It's sloping up. Not very. This one, it looks like it's pointing down. Maybe it's because the overview is not in the detail enough. So let's see. Yes, it's pointing up actually. Let's take a look at the obvious one, maybe this one. The price is, yes, pointing up. Price is rising from last 12. That's correct. Let's take a look at that one. It's very, very strange. Yes, it's pointing up. So as you can see, the scan actually gives you very precise option. Sorry, the precise results, because even though it just has it just starts from previous week, price just rising from this week, it will give you it will include this share into the results, because that's exactly what you mean by price is sloping up since last 12, not necessarily to be like like this kind of situation. For example, this market again, okay, it's very obvious, right? So because the price sloping up since many weeks ago, that's obviously will be included into the results. But if it's only start pointing out from previous week, it also give you this stock. So you really need to review it by yourself after scan if you use this function, because it will give you all the results even though it just started moving up since last week. But this one, as you can see, it just moving up for few weeks ago. It also included in the results. Okay, there are two more functions right here. I think it's very obvious because the name explains itself quite well. It's just saying it is sloping flat since last peak. So, and that one is it's sloping flat since last 12. It's just saying the closing price hasn't been changed. It's flattering out since last peak or last 12. So I'm not gonna show in that market scan anymore because this tutorial is almost 1 hour. Yes, okay, so this is only the closing price, but if you're using the opening price, as you can see, that function list is exactly the same with the closing price. Even though you pick up the high price and low price, that exactly the same because they are all price indicators. You can comparing it the same, closing with closing, and you can compare closing with constant. And in our later tutorial, You can even compare your closing price with Bollinger Band's value to see if its price is sorry, or you can compare your closing price with the moving average value to check if the price stays above a moving average or below a moving average, etc. So it's quite flexible, right? Um, okay, so we have finished up this video tutorial. I just spent a lot of time here to explain each functions. I very quickly run some market scan, but really rudimentary ones. We're scanning by using single condition every time, but actually you can combine many things together, so come up more meaningful, comprehensive market scan. But I'm gonna show you guys in our later video tutorials for those uh, advanced usage of indicators filters. Okay. Um, Last words I want to just saying is, if you still have questions for each functions, what's that mean? Always going back to our homepage, pointing out to the right documentation page. For example, we're talking about indicator filter function documentation. You need to go into this page and have a look at this function meaning. If you still have questions, feel free to leave your questions in the comments for this tutorial, and our staff will be able to answer your questions. Um, okay, I think that's pretty much all for this video tutorial. Thanks for your time, really. Thanks for your watching. I see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye for now.